watched The Ring with my 10-year-old daughter. Her review? It wasn't scary. So apparently, Samara has finally met her match. But watching this movie again for the first time since it came out, I realized something. The Ring isn't really only about a scary videotape, it's kind of a movie about motherhood. About parenting a child when every choice you make requires some kind of sacrifice. Hell, even the central investigation starts when one mother asks another mother for help. When I first watched this movie in high school, it terrified me. Watching it now, though, it's not really scary in the same way. It's almost like a fairy tale, a dark legend. You can see that in the stylized imagery, the slightly unnatural dialogue, and the overall feeling of the story. After the death of her niece, Rachel is asked to investigate her mysterious sudden death, and this sends her down a rabbit hole involving the curse of an angry child who created a VHS tape with her mind. The movie is intentionally vague about Samara's origins, and it gives contradictory evidence. Nobody directly involved wants to talk about what's happening, and even when they do give answers, there are still gaps. As much as I love answers, I think this actually works for the story. The movie isn't really interested in explaining where Samara came from, as much as it is interested in what happens when someone can't escape their own pain. Rachel watches the tape and she finds and realizes that she has cursed herself. She brings in her ex Noah, a video producer, to help her examine the strange piece of media. And this is where the movie actually gets kind of cool. The tape has all kinds of impossible things going on. The angles don't make sense. There are images hidden outside of the frame. The technical markings that should exist on a VHS tape aren't there. This tape should not be possible. And yet, here it is, giving us the visual language of an early 2000s surrealist film student who just discovered creepy filters. Honestly, it's not as bad as I remember. It's mostly just confusing. And as Rachel gets closer and closer to the truth, she starts connecting the strange imagery in the tape to things that are happening in the real world. And her son, Aiden, is also just a regular little weirdo. He's about 7 years old, but somehow has the mannerisms of a 50-year-old divorced alcoholic who just got off a double shift. He takes care of himself, rejects affection from Rachel, and seems far too emotionally mature for his age. In fact, Rachel doesn't come off as especially motherly at all towards him. Their relationship is surprisingly cold. She does not come off as a competent parent to begin with. Noah is also Aiden's father, but Aiden doesn't seem particularly attached to him. Noah could easily come across as a deadbeat dad, but I think he's more emotionally broken than intentionally neglectful. The moment Aiden is in danger, Noah throws himself into trying to solve the problem. Aiden also seems to have some kind of second sight. He's able to perceive Samara in a way other people can't. Where other characters are reacting to subconscious forces, Aiden can actually see her and hear her and understand that something is wrong. The problem is, time is running out. You have 7 days to figure this out before Samara comes for you and turns you into Edvard Munch's The Scream. This curse also creates some truly horrifying collateral damage. A horse reacts to Rachel's presence, jumps off a ferry, and becomes horse sushi by way of the propeller, while the horrified little girl who owns it watches her childhood friend get turned into a very upsetting nature documentary. And that scene is still awful. Not because it's graphic, but because of the kid that is watching it happen. Something else I never noticed before, this movie is actually incredibly female centered. A lot of movies treat men as the default and women as the exception, but The Ring quietly builds a world where women are everywhere. Rachel, Anna, the therapists, cashiers, technicians, the people working in the background. Women aren't just the main characters, they're the world around them. And considering this movie is ultimately about mothers and their children, I think that feels kind of intentional. Rachel's investigation leads her to Anna Morgan and her daughter Samara. Anna was a woman who desperately wanted a child but couldn't have one. And when she finally does have a daughter, something is deeply wrong. And again, the movie is frustratingly vague about the details. But Anna comes home with the child she always wanted, and instead of happiness, she gets terror. Anna wanted a child desperately, but reached a point where she could no longer handle what that child was. Samara hurts people. She causes horses to kill themselves. She drives her mother towards a breaking point that there is no return from. She can project horrifying thoughts into other people's minds, and she knows she's doing it, and she wants to do it, and she won't stop. So Anna makes the impossible choice. She kills her own child to stop the harm, and that is what makes Anna interesting. She isn't just an evil mother. She loved Samara. She wanted Samara, but she also became convinced that Samara was too dangerous to be allowed to live. And those two things exist at the same time. But Samara's pain doesn't end when she dies, it continues. She spreads the pain to everybody else. Rachel finds where Samara was killed and releases her spirit by discovering her body, and then we get one of the coldest lines in the movie. You weren't supposed to help her. Thanks, Aiden. That would have been incredibly useful information literally any time in the previous 7 days. Rachel hasn't defeated Samara, she has just completed the curse. Noah is killed in one of the best sequences in the movie, and Rachel finally understands the terrible truth. The only way to survive this curse is to pass it on. She makes a copy of the tape and gives it to someone else, and that is where the movie gets really uncomfortable. Anna sacrificed her child to protect other people. Rachel sacrifices someone else to protect hers. Neither woman is a monster. Both are mothers making impossible choices. And that is a much more it's much more interesting than simply defeating a ghost. I mean, looking back, The Ring wasn't nearly as scary now as it was when I watched it in high school. And some of the fear came from the technology: VHS tapes, tracking problems, physical photos, landlines. Half the horror is explaining old technology to someone who grew up watching streaming. My daughter's biggest reaction was basically confusion about VHS tapes. She wasn't scared, but I walked away appreciating The Ring much more than I did 20 years ago. Not because it was terrifying, but because it's a much sadder movie than I remembered.